Waza of Kashiwazaki, and we're continuing with osaekomi Waza. In the previous segment, we went over what he considers to be the foundation of your osaekomi Waza, and that's your basic yoko, shiho, gatame. Now in this segment, he's going to show how to shift from yoko, shiho, gatame into other osaekomi techniques. So, yoko, shiho, gatame, from yoko, shiho, gatame, it's very easy to shift into kuzure kami shiho and into tate shiho. That's one of the reasons he likes that grip on the belt, is because that particular grip lends itself well to shifting into those particular osaekomi techniques. And he'll demonstrate how right here. It's extremely common, of course, for your opponent to try to take your leg and try to bundle it up in a half guard, as we saw in the previous segment. And it's very difficult to mount any kind of offense or to control your opponent effectively if he puts you in a guard or a half guard. So here's how he defeats that particular method of acquiring the half guard. It's pretty powerful if you watch it. So as you can see, he grabs a hold of your ankle, and then you're just going to take, in this case, your right knee, and you're just going to slide it across and smash your shin into his wrist. And that should clear his grip on your ankle. There it is in slow motion. And you end up in kind of a, well, you do end up in an Ushido Keiza position. Now, one pointer that I want to add from my own personal experience. Now, a lot of the time when you're changing your base, when you're going from one knee to both knees, or shifting from one hip to the other, like you see him doing here, like this, the tendency is, at least with me, to lean your weight towards your head. It seems easier to shift your base around when you lean your weight towards your head. And in doing that, you make yourself easier to reverse, bridge over in the teppo gaishi technique. Or just in general, you take your weight off of your opponent and that makes it more difficult to control him. So usually when you're adjusting your base, when you're shifting your base around, what I like to do is I like to keep my scalp pointed towards the sky. And when you do that, that keeps your weight more focused on your opponent. And if you're worried about him pushing on your face or cross-facing you, putting his forearm across your nose, a lot of guys will try to do that. You can drop your chin down on your opponent's chest or on his bicep, as long as you have your scalp pointed upwards. And then you should be able to keep your weight centered on your opponent. So getting back to this particular technique here to clear the grip on the ankle. There it is again. And now from there, it's really easy to shift into kuzure kami shiho. Notice how he shifts from this he slides his shin across, cuts the arm off, well, smashes into the arm, cuts the grip off, and then he adjusts. He sinks under the arm, and then changes his base again, right here. And notice, of course, that now he's over both of his opponent's arms in Kazuri Kami Shiho Gatame. He doesn't go into a whole lot of detail explaining Kami Shiho right here. That'll come later. But I'll mention at this point a common piece of instruction that I get from a lot of the Japanese Waza specialists is this quote-unquote north-south position shouldn't actually be a north-south. So if your feet are at 6 o'clock, for example, and your opponent's feet are at 12, you're a little bit more susceptible to getting rolled, according to them. So therefore, if your opponent's feet are at 12, your feet should be more at 8 or at 4, if you catch my meaning. So you see here how he's kind of at somewhat of a diagonal as opposed to being in a straight line. There it is again. So when the opponent tries to grab to put the half guard on, you slide that knee across and then immediately go back into your Kami Shiho, hook underneath his arm and shift back into Kami Shiho Gatame, Kazuri Kami Shiho. Very rapidly. He says it's important to practice this so that you can do it very rapidly. Now moving into Tate Shiho, he often does that. And back in your old school Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you saw this a lot. So he's got the grip on the belt, and now his base, with this particular base, he's on both knees. He feels that if you're on both knees in this particular version of yoko shiho, it's difficult to regain your balance by posting your foot like he just showed. Personally, from my experience, I disagree. But if you're kind of quote-unquote stuck on both knees, this is what he recommends. You can still use your hand to post and maintain your balance. And so when he tries to bridge, you just step over into Tate Shiho Gatame. He tries to bridge, post the hand, step over into Tate Shiho Gatame. And he doesn't describe this particular osaekomi technique in great detail in this segment very well either. But he'll get to that later.